Alright, so breaking this down, this is JD, by the way, coming at you with episode 5 of Deadliest Warrior Recap. I know Deadliest Warrior ended a few years ago, but I've always thought that they've done things completely wrong. And this is my video kind of elaborating on what I feel they did wrong and how they got a bunch of things wrong. Okay? I am doing episode 8 of season 1, which is William Wallace versus Shaka Zulu. Okay? Which is the final battle, actually, and I will have a little bit of a talk about of who I think would be the best warrior out of Season 1, okay? I'm going to do 2 ways on that, but I'll get into that when I have that video. William Wallace versus Shaka Zulu. First off, I want to say that same old trap that they fall into, where they have one test and they use armor or weapon on it, and that one weapon has a way to make that armor ineffective to that weapon, and they disregard the armor completely. Or the weapon has a way to make that armor ineffective. Just to that weapon, in one way, and they totally disregard the armor. Okay, I'll get into that here in a minute. Shaka Zulu comes in with what's called the Zulu axe. Zulu axe is a long axe, it's a pole, okay? It has a part that juts out, and it's actually a really nice design. I actually like it. And it is an axe, the chopping axe. It's a two-handed chopping axe, okay? You have the Ikwa, which is a short spear. The spear handle's about 2 feet, and then the spear itself is about a foot and a half, okay? It is not used like a normal spear. Most spears are used to keep people at distance. It's just used the way they use it. They slash with it and they stab with it in unison with what they do, because they have a thing where they do like stick training, where they do like a lot of stick turning, and this spear can be used the same way with their shield, so they use a lot of that stuff for like blocking and stuff like that. Okay, and then the Ishlongu spear or shield is what their shield's called. The Ishwa is it's a club, it's a blunt end, and they use it to throw. It's their long range weapon. They don't really have a long range weapon, but they use this as a long range weapon. It's blunt. It's a blunt object, and it has the ability to kill and bludgeon for sure. And I'll get into a little bit more on that weapon here soon. William Wallace comes in. First off, he has chainmail armor. Okay. He comes in with a warhammer. Most of his weapons are one shot, one kill. They hit you, you're dead. Claymore, which is a 4.5 foot long blade. Okay, it's not how long the sword is. It's about a 5.5 foot long sword total. Two-handed sword, 4.5 feet long. It's got weight. It's very nice. It's a very nice blade. Ball and chain, and this is one thing that's a repeated pattern. You're not going to sit there and tell me that William Wallace in the rebellion against England did not have archers. He had archers. But if you bring archers to this, because the Shaka Zulu does not have any ranged weapon other than a club they throw, it would be a landslide. So they brought in a weapon that they just wanted to have tests on the show, which would be the ball and chain, to make the battle a little bit more fair. Okay, I still don't think it's going to be as fair as they think. I think it's still very one-sided, but we shall see. I still don't think it's going to be that. And then you have the Targe and Dirk. A Targe is a round shield. It's not 4 feet wide. It's about 2.5 feet wide. Okay. You have both. It's about this wide. It's maybe a little wider, and you use that, and there's a pike on the end. Okay. Imagine like a pitchfork. Cut off one of the forks, put it on there, and it's a pike. Okay. And it's made like if you run into somebody, it'll go through. If it goes through their shield, it goes into them, and then you add that up with about a 1 foot long dagger. Okay. First, I'm going to go over William Wallace's armor. William Wallace's armor. He has a 12 gauge ringmail armor. Okay. For those of you who watched my shows, this series before, you're going to know exactly what I'm about to say. Ringmail is not armor that can stop thrusts, but it does stop all slashes. Okay. And again, I'm going to reiterate. Any weapons test should test for 3 things: the slash, the cut, and the blunt force trauma. Meaning how much energy, if you're wearing armor, even if I still hit you with it. For example, if I take a stick and smack you in the side and you're wearing ringmail, it's probably not going to transfer that much energy out. The energy is going to be transferred outward because it's ringmail. Okay? And you're not going to penetrate it either. But if I take the same thing and hit you with a bat in the ribs, what's the impact? Okay? So that's what I think we should test with every weapon. Okay? So the first weapon, William Wallace, and this is what they did. The first weapon they test was the Ikwa spear in the Ishlangu shield. Okay, though the spear is nice, it's a nice spear, and it slashes good, it stabs good against a pig carcass. Okay, it does slash and stab really nicely. Then they put chainmail on it, and they stab through it, and they're like, oh, it got through the armor. That armor is pointless. No, the armor is not pointless. The armor just actually cut down 50%, well, 30 or 66% of what the weapon can do. Weapon has 3 capabilities: blunt force trauma, slash, and stab. Since the spear, that spear is not weighted, there's no blunt force trauma, and I'm not going to flick you off. I'm going to switch fingers on this. There's no blunt force trauma, and there's no slash. So you've literally rendered that spear who had potentially 2 to 3 options. I'm gonna say 2 just for the sake of argument, because they didn't have blunt force trauma to begin with, so why count that against them? Okay, so it had slash and a stab. Now you only have the stab. So any kind of slashing motions you do normally are rendered useless, and you're wasting your energy. Okay? And they never test that weapon again. They never test that weapon against the Zulu axe or anything like that armor again. Let me phrase that, against the Zulu axe or anything like that. Okay. The Ishlangu shield is pointless, and I'll tell you why. Because they tested that. I'll get to that in a minute. It's a stick with cowhide on the sides, and it's mainly used as like you can hide behind it. Where's your spear? Is it gonna come high? Gonna come low? That's what it's used for. It's not. Apparently, a bullet can like graze off the side. I don't believe that. I have to see it to believe it. But the thing about William Wallace, all his weapons are weighted. They are heavy, 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 heavy weapons. And the sheer weight of their weapons is not going to be something Shaka Zulu is going to be able to deal with when it comes to him actually getting hit. Okay? And this is something that happened in a couple other ones, and I didn't mention it, so I'm going to mention it now. I think you need to come into a battle and say more and be more cunning and have more to your stature than, oh, we're just going to be faster than the opponent. You have to have more than that, okay? For example, Spartan Ninja can be as fast as they want. You can be as fast as you want. You're not getting around the shield. You're not getting around the armor. You can't outspeed the depth of the shield and how strong the armor is. It doesn't matter. If that's the case, Spartan will just hunker down behind it until you tire out. Same thing in the samurai fight. You have to have more substance to it than like, oh, we're just going to slash and slash and slash. Can't slash and slash and slash whenever you're fighting against ringmail armor, because it renders your slashing capability useless. You cannot slash on a ringmail armor, okay? So now, back to this. So that's what they did with the Ishwa. They tested, it stabbed through the armor. I'll give it that. It stabs through the armor. But they go to the and it doesn't slash. So now they go to the next one. The next one is a slashing Zulu axe. It has good chopping. It has good chopping. It actually does really good on the side of beef they do. It's really good. I'm not going to argue that. However, it eliminates 50% of that weapon's functionality. Okay? The weapon has 2 capabilities. The hack and slash. Okay, it's all one thing. Hack and slash. It slashes with so much weight, it hacks into you. And then because it has that, it has blunt force trauma. Okay? Because the ringmail is still on William Wallace, you lose that hack and slash ability. Okay? You might still have the blunt force trauma. They didn't test it, but I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt because it was a heavy weapon. You're going to still have the blunt force trauma. Okay? And you're assuming that the opponent doesn't have a shield, but we're not going to get into that right now. So you eliminate 50% of that weapon's capability, and the last weapon is the Ishwa throwing club. I will give it credit. I do think it is effective in being able to be thrown and kill somebody. However, I do not believe for a second that... I just think that the chainmail argument still stands with this because your target is narrowed. Because you can't hit someone in the chest, it's not going to do anything like to penetrate it. Energy is going to be transferred out. The Ishwa is thrown, and unless you hit someone directly in the face, which there are weapons here that are going to be in the way of that, you're not going to be able to kill. I do think it has the capability to kill. It's big enough and blunt enough that it definitely has that capability to kill. Okay, now we'll switch over to William Wallace. William Wallace has first thing the Warhammer. It's about this long. It's about 2 feet. Blunt end, spiked end. The guy has two skulls sitting in front of him. One is just a skull, one is a skull and a ballistic gel torso. Crush in 2 seconds. Less than 2 seconds. Fast. Anything that Warhammer hits, it kills. If it hits you in the chest, it's going to collapse your chest. Okay? If it hits you in the head, you're dead. If it hits your shoulder, it may not kill you by hitting your shoulder, but it will separate your shoulder, it will break your clavicle, it will break your collarbone, and you will not be able to lift your shoulder lift your arm the rest of the fight. Okay? Whatever that Warhammer hits, it obliterates. Okay? And again, it is weighted, and it is a fast weapon, and that weapon would probably be paired up with a shield. Okay? Which I'll get to that here a little bit later. Claymore is the next weapon. It's a 4.5 foot blade, 5.5 foot sword. They didn't test it the way it was supposed to be. Should have been tested. I would love to see what they would have done. The Claymore can actually cut a person from here down to their crotch, okay, in half in one swipe, because that's how big a sword has, how much mass it has. And the way he used it, in the certain motions he used to keep it effective, Shaka Zulu wouldn't have had anything to do about it. You wouldn't be able to get within the fighter. You wouldn't be able. It's a 5 foot blade, 5 foot total, not to mention the length of your arms when you're swinging it around. It's an 8 foot buzzsaw. You're not going to be able to get to that. And anything it touches, it obliterates. The shield, it went right through the shield and almost went through the actual load cell it was sitting on. Okay? So, that's useless. If you try to pick your shield up, if it's going to go through your shield, it's going to go through the person behind the shield because it's 4 feet long. Okay? So now your shield's useless. If you have the Zulu axe, you might be able to deflect it once or twice, but I have no doubt in my mind that if you try to deflect with that axe, you're probably going to get your axe cut in half. Okay? And then there's no other weapon here that can counter it. It's just too much. If it hits you, you're dead. You gotta be able to have something a little bit more than, oh, we'll just avoid it. No, it's too big of a blade. And the way he uses the blade, they didn't show it, him like actually using it in a fight. He lopped off 3 heads, and they said, oh, look at your back. Now it's your back so I can kill you. Like, yeah, he just cut your head off, first off. Second off, he's not using it in technique. He's just showing that you can cut off 3 heads in one swing. Probably do more, but he just showed that. Okay? Ball and chain. I'm not going to talk too much about this. This is a weapon, again. They had the Irish, the Scottish, William Wallace had bow and arrows. He had the British longbow. The British longbow would have very easily been able to take out Shaka Zulu before he ever got anywhere close. Okay? So, because they've never had a ball and chain on the show, they asked them to bring the ball and chain so they can test it and show how good, bad, or indifferent the weapon is and how cool the weapon is or how cool it isn't. Ball and chain, it's not made really as like you use it one-on-one battle and just swing it. What it is if someone's charging at you in formation, you fling a bunch of these at it and it breaks up the formation. It might kill a guy. It might kill a couple people. It might break a shield, stuff like that. It's just supposed to disrupt your enemy. It's all it's made for, so I'm not going to get too much into what it can do. However, I do think it would actually have killing capability against Shaka Zulu, but I wouldn't use it if I was William Wallace. It's pointless. Stick to your weapons, your one shot, one kill. And the Tarzan Dirk, Shaka Zulu has no armor. So if you come at him with the Zulu axe, he's gonna block and then he's gonna stab you, or he's gonna block and then push into you with the pike and kill you. And if you come at him with the spear, he's gonna go the shield and spear. He's gonna go right through the other person's shield into Shaka Zulu and kill him. And then he's gonna be able to block anything the spear does. So I don't see any kind of way around that. It's also blunt. It's huge. It's thick. It's like that thick. It's huge. Okay. So it's a thick piece. It's a thick shield because it had to bolt on a huge ass metal spike. Okay. Now where that spike would have an issue is if you had that and you went up against like something like, well, let's just say the Viking shield. The blunted part, the rounded part on the mounded middle part, the issue with that is if you hit that and it doesn't penetrate, it rolls. You can roll your shield into your opponent, and then now your shield is useless, and your opponent can just come in with an overhand chop and kill you. Okay, so that's where it can be effective, but not in this battle. You have cowhide is what the other person's shield is made of. So again, none of the Shaka Zulu's weapons were tested with pressure mats, so I got to go off an assumption. I do think the Zulu's axe could do enough trauma to separate a shoulder on a hit, maybe collapse a couple of lungs. So over the course of time, they could get kills. I just don't think they get that many compared to how much the William Wallace is going to get. And again, I don't like the fact that they just discourage the weapon after it's gone, or the armor after they test it one time. The armor will always be there. Now, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the combinations. I've talked about these before, where what a person can logically go into battle with, because you can't go into battle carrying everything. You're either going to have the Zulu axe and the Ishwa, which is the throwing club. Those two, or you're going to have. I think you could logically carry in the Ikwa spear and the Ishlongu shield, and then you can have the Uisa club. I think those are your two combinations when it comes to Shaka Zulu. I think with William Wallace, if you have the Warhammer, I think you have Warhammer, Tarj and Dirk, and I mean you can carry the ball and chain on you. It's not something crazy. You can carry it on your hip. If you have the Warhammer, you would have the Tarj and Dirk as well as your backup weapon. And if you have the Claymore, I think you can actually put the Tarj and Dirk on your back. But let's just say the Claymore, you have none of that. Okay, so you have Claymore with the ball and chain, Warhammer. I think Warhammer would be your constant. So Warhammer and Claymore are your weapon, or you have Warhammer and Tarj and Dirk are your weapon, along with ball and chain. So I think those are your two options. Ultimately, I have William Wallace winning this more decisively than he won. He won 621 to 379. They really twisted the test to try to make it seem like it was going to be a balanced fight, and it wasn't even close. You have much better metal weapons. You have much better armor, which renders half of the capabilities. And when I say half, if you can slash and you can stab with a weapon, and you have rendered it, you've taken away the slash, that is rendering the weapon 50% less effective. Okay, you've taken away one of its possibilities. Okay, and the same with the axe. It has a hack, it has a slash, and it has blunt force trauma. You've taken away the slash, so you rely solely on blunt force trauma to kill with that weapon. Okay, now his neck and stuff isn't covered, so you still have the slash there, but your margin of air is narrowed, and that's what armor does. It narrows your margin of air, and people don't factor that in. Okay. So without further ado, my numbers. The Zulu Axe gets 70. The Shield and Spear get 200 in the Ishwa. The Zulu Axe gets 70. I think it's about accurate to what it had before. Just because I don't see him getting that close to be able to use it. But when he does, it's going to be effective because it's a heavy weapon. So 70, I'm sticking with that. Short, the Spear and the Ikwa and the Ishwangu shield, it had 307 initially. I don't see how it gets 307. Yes, you can stab with it, but that's all you can do. You can't slash. So any maneuver where you're trying to use a slash to kill somebody is irrelevant. You've cut the weapon in half, the capability of the weapon in half. Okay, so that's I give them 200 kills just because they do have that capability to kill. And then the Ishwa, the throwing club, I give it 10. Okay, just to be generous. Because I really don't think this is a fair fight. You have armored soldiers against guys in skirts running around Africa, okay? With, I wouldn't say subpar weapons, but you have subpar armor, and you have no way to counter their armor, okay? Warhammer, I gave it 89 kills. Claymore gave it 365 kills. I think the Warhammer, I increased it by about 24 kills. Just because if I was William Wallace, I would probably stick more to the Claymore, personally. Claymore, 365 kills. Very effective weapon. You're not going to get close to him if he has the Claymore. They have no range. You really have no range. Not too much you have to worry about. Ball and Chain gets 1 kill. Only because that had 1 kill in the old one, and I'm just going to stick with that. And then the Tarj and Dirk had 265 kills. It's too effective. I'm sorry, it's too effective. Shaka Zulu, everything Shaka Zulu needs to do is get in close, and the fact that one of his weapons alone is a two-handed weapon, eventually he's going to load up to hit you, and you're just going to charge through that, and you're going to put your spike in his stomach, and you're going to stab him with the dirk, and he's dead. So that's pretty much it. This is my last video where I break down individual battles. I'm going to do will be the last episode of season 1 that I'm going to review. Next one I'm going to review all I'm gonna do two basically. I'm gonna do the review the winners of each that they had, and then the winners that I had. Okay, so we shall see. We shall see. Without further ado, that's pretty much it. This is JD. Like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate you watching. Have a good one.